Welcome to Sports Geek Throwback. Here's your host, the sports geek himself, Sean Callanan.
G'day, I am Sean Callanan from Sports Geek, and welcome to Sports Geek Throwback, where I pick out the best bits from the Sports Geek podcast archive. For this week's Sports Geek Throwback, I go back to episode 316 with Jessica Smith, published back in January 2023. Jessica Smith was at the Angel City FC, and she is now president at Golden State Valkyries in the WNBA. Remember, if you need help with your digital marketing or sponsorship teams, please get in touch. That is what we do in applying the digital to dollars process to help your team build revenue. In this throwback episode, Jessica and I discuss purpose-driven revenue models in sports. Remember, you can listen to the full episode at sportsgeekhq.com/316.
How do you anchor your revenue goals and revenue targets and what you're trying to do in sponsorship back to those core values to say that this is the type, if you're a sponsor of Angel City FC, you've got to be aligned and this is what we want. How do you balance that? Because that's obviously, in a tough sponsorship market, and we're seeing different sponsorship products that have been hitting the market, and sports have taken them on board and they've fallen over and hurt a lot of people. How do you balance that? I guess that conundrum, or is it not a conundrum and you're just really locked in on the values?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think there's two pieces to the answer. The first is valuation, and I was just speaking at ASPNW about this a few weeks ago. So first, before you go to market with any type of strategy, you need to understand what you're charging and why, right? Yep. So we went through the traditional valuation process, as teams do, and you go out and you say, well, what should we be charging for a jersey sponsorship? Yep. How much overall revenue do you think we should have? And you can kind of back into assets and staff and what you can afford to make this thing go once you can sell things. Well, we got our valuation back, and it was awful. And this is me coming from men's sports traditionally, right? Where they're telling me that the front of our jersey is worth $1 million. And I'm coming from, Major League Soccer, where I know that number is bottom of the barrel, right? And I start thinking about it a little bit more intuitively, like, well, why is that the value? Like, what's actually going into that, right? And like Natalie Portman's going to be wearing this jersey, like among many others. But you're telling me that there's no value to that, or the number of jerseys we're going to sell is, dwarfing again many of what men's teams are selling. And I know that just from, being behind the scenes and having that knowledge, but you're telling me it's worth less, right? So like the number in the marketplace, the celebrities we have, and you're still telling me it's worth significantly less. And so we challenged that from the start, because the evaluation process for us was like most are like, you take the traditional, like, well, women's sports usually get this much. Well, and you're going to be on LA, so you're going to get a lot. I'm like, but that's not a lot, because you're not bookmarking us against other actual properties that we should be, right? Given the factors that I outlined, so we went to market. We kind of scrapped that a bit. We worked with it, but we made them include some other valuations that were relevant, a lot being through our ownership group at the time, because there was actually like, a set thing we could point to. And we went to market with our 10% model, which, folks are aware of now. But really what we did was, when we said we don't want to be a soapbox, and when we thought about these conversations we're going into with, partners, we wanted to go in and say, here's how we're going to change the world, and here's how I want you to do that with us. That was really important to us, versus just saying, look how great we are. I want to take all your money, and of course you're going to get like the shoulder effect to like being affiliated with us. But like when you actually think about like what we've accomplished together, it was missing that layer. So that's valuation part one. Part two, is going to market and actually testing it, right? Because we were going out to market with not a firm valuation, because it didn't exist, and a story that was what I just said. And, we're here to change the world. I want you to be part of this with us. We are not going in someplace saying, I'd like you to take a look at how many radio media value pieces we're going to have, and our LED is going to be broadcast all over the globe. Not accurate, right? Like that. And that's actually not the strength of what they're buying. So we built something where, and we now talk about it the way that we say, you have to value your values, right? Because we innately understood at the beginning, from that valuation process to going to market, that there's a benefit for brands, of course, aligning with an organization like ours, right? Is it the number of impressions they're going to get from traditional men's sports? No, not traditionally anyways, not through TV viewership, et cetera. It's getting there, but the number of games, like, you can dig into all the reasons why, right?
Yep.
But what there is a trust. And in today's market, number one, you have Gen Z, and they're not going to affiliate with anybody or anything that they're not morally aligned with, right?
Yep.
So if you're a brand, a sports team, an athlete, like, and they're not loyal. So like they, to a team, right? They are loyal to athletes too, right? So you just have to be innately aware of like that generation kind of like taking hold of the sports industry. The second piece that we really looked at, and what I call them, is a COVID consumer. Like the whole globe just went through something, you know, and we were early days of that. We were building this whole thing out in the fall of 2020. And every single person I know, you know, is now thinking about things differently. They know who they're spending their time with. They understand, you know, the work and home balance that they're seeking to have. Balance is the wrong word, but I should say like differentiating of time. You know, they're thinking about what brands and athletes, et cetera, that they're following, you know, so that's worth something, that you can actually buy a product that shows consumers that you have the same values that product does. And we went to market with that. So I pitched our front of kit 40 times in 2 weeks. And I just told Julie, I was like, listen, we're going to go for this. And this is what our strategy is. The market will tell us very quickly if we're out of our minds. But I innately knew, from obviously having decades of work inside these same rooms with these same decision makers, knowing what they're looking for, seeing brands out there also seeking like, how are they going to start showing consumers, not just telling consumers that they have these values. And so we were able to go in and provide that, not only high visibility, not only the right thing to do by supporting women's sports, you know, but also we're making actual change. So like with our 10%, you know, model, you look at DoorDash, we're going to feed 1 million people in the course of our partnership, right? Like we sat back down for the recap. Like that's what we're doing. When you look at Birdies, who's the sleeve partner on our jersey, we created an internship program for diverse high school students because we believe even college is a barrier to entry for both sports and fashion, right? We're going to sit down and look at the alumnus of that group of humans who's had access to both of us and got out into the world. And so we now have 27 partners, and each one has a reason beside us for like making real change, on top of course, the incredible content we have, the followship, you know, game day visibility, et cetera, that they're getting.
I mean, it is very much, there's a real shift in like that valuation piece, because that traditional model is, you know, media buys. How many eyeballs am I getting? Where are those eyeballs? Who are those eyeballs? And it's effectively just a media valuation calculation and go, oh, here it is. It's like, well, you can just buy programmatic, or you can just buy, you know, TV spots at NBC if you just want your brand there. But it's that attachment to, oh, I want to be associated with this. And it's not just, oh, successful. Like it's not, oh, I want to be associated with the Lakers because they're a really big brand and a long history of being successful. It's like they want to be associated, partners like DoorDash want to be associated with your message, you know, and then it becomes, you know, your pitch becomes part, you know, corporate social responsibility, what they want to do in the community. And so your sponsorship's not, you know, not traditional in that they can tick a few more boxes that they've got, not to mention the social digital impact that you've got, where you've got a few levers there to be able to pull with your, you know, a large group of owners and influencers that say, hey, I'm supporting this cause, but I'm a part of the team. So it really is like the metrics and the valuation piece hasn't caught up with, I guess that, you know, the pitch you're doing, but the pitch that more sponsorship folk are out there trying to do to say, well, you know, if I was just selling eyeballs, you could just go to Mr. Zuckerberg and buy eyeballs, you know? Exactly
right. Yep. And a lot of the CMOs we talk to, that's what they say. They say the core of sponsorship is actually like alignment of values and marks and logo affiliation, right? That's why you do partnerships. So media, of course, is important, but it's not the same bucket necessarily of consideration. So it ends up becoming two different reasons that they're looking to buy. And, you know, we've actually taken, it's not just the partnership model with purpose. So we have a ticketing model with purpose as well, the Fan Fueled Player Fund, where 1% of net ticket proceeds actually go towards the players that help us sell tickets, right? So they're using their personal likeness on their accounts. And, you know, we're able to say, it's educating fans that you buying a ticket matters, right? So it's going back into that education of consumers of showing up matters, buying merchandise matters, supporting our partnerships matter. Like they all will push this forward in a big way.
If If you like this Sports Geek Throwback episode, please check out the full episode at sportsgeekhq.com. Please share Sports Geek with your sports business colleagues. We appreciate you sharing. We love working with podcast listeners. Please get in touch so we can help your team. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/phone call. All Sports Geek episodes are available at sportsgeekhq.com and all podcast platforms.